The chapel felt like a hollow shell that morning, quiet enough to hear my own breathing. I was the only living soul in the front pew. Just a small 9-year-old kid with shoes that didn't quite touch the floor, and I kept staring at my mama's closed casket through a blur of tears. There wasn't anybody else there, no family, no friends, nothing but the low hum of the air conditioning and the kind of silence that makes your heart ache. I remember thinking, why didn't anyone come for her? She deserved better than an empty room. And then it happened. This deep rumbling sound that started off like a whisper in the distance and grew until the walls around me practically shook. The windows rattled in their frames. I sat up, wiping my eyes, trying to figure out what in the world was coming. Out in the California sun, chrome began to flash. One motorcycle after another rolled in. 10, 20, 50. By the time they finished parking, I counted around 80 of them. 80 Hell's Angels, forming neat rows like they practiced it. They moved toward the chapel with a kind of purpose I didn't understand, their boots heavy, their expressions serious. The man leading them was huge, tall, broad, older, with a weathered face and a gray braided beard. He walked straight to the casket, laid one rough hand on the polished wood, and whispered something I couldn't hear. When he turned toward me, I saw tears slipping down lines that looked carved from stone. And then he said the 5 words that changed my life. Your mama saved our lives. Hearing that made my whole world tilt. Who was my mama really? What had she done? And why would an entire army of bikers show up for a woman the rest of the world forgot? Outside, the September heat shoved down on Riverside like a heavy blanket, even though it was barely past 10 in the morning. Inside Parkview Memorial Chapel, the air conditioning hummed away, doing nothing to ease the tight, crushing weight sitting in my chest. I sat there in my little dress shirt, the same one Mama bought me for school pictures last year, now a bit too short at the wrists. I clung to a wrinkled tissue that had stopped being useful a long time ago. 15 feet in front of me sat the casket, quiet, closed, topped with a simple spray of white lilies. The funeral director had tried to encourage something more appropriate, but my grandma shut that idea down real fast over the phone. We're not made of money. She made her choices, Grandma had snapped. Those words stung as they replayed in my head, mixing with the faint funeral music drifting from speakers hidden somewhere in the walls. Mama had made choices. I just didn't know what any of them were. What I did know was simple. She worked double shifts at Riverside Community Hospital, smelled like antiseptic and lavender lotion, made the best grilled cheese on earth, and sang off-key on every drive to school. And 6 days ago, she collapsed in the hospital parking lot, gone before anyone had the chance to save her. Her co-workers sent a nice card, but none of them came today. Grandma refused to fly in from Michigan. My father? He was a ghost. Mama always said, "Love can be messy, baby, but my love for you, that's the simplest thing in the world." Sitting alone in that chapel, I learned what alone really meant. Mr. Alvarez, the funeral director, walked over with soft steps, his shiny shoes clicking quietly. He was a thin man with kind eyes that looked like they'd seen too much sorrow. "Dylan," he said gently, crouching down beside me. "We can wait a few more minutes, in case anyone else comes." I shook my head. We had already waited half an hour past the start time. There was no point. The only other person there was Mrs. Rodriguez from next door, 4 rows back, clutching her handkerchief and sniffling softly. She'd brought casserole more than once after Mama passed. At least someone cared. "I think we can start," I whispered. My voice sounded tiny in that big room. Mr. Alvarez nodded kindly. Your mother was lucky to have you, son. But I wasn't sure, not anymore. Mama had so many secrets, places she never talked about, people she never mentioned. And now all the answers were locked inside a closed casket. In 3 minutes, the service would begin. 20 minutes later, it would be over. And an hour after that, I'd be in a temporary foster home while strangers sorted out my life. Mama's apartment was already being emptied, her things packed into a couple of small boxes. It felt wrong, like this couldn't possibly be the last page of her story. Then the sound came again, a low, rolling thunder that wasn't thunder at all. The floor vibrated beneath my shoes. The walls trembled. Mr. Alvarez froze mid-step. Mrs. Rodriguez gasped, and the noise kept growing. Louder, deeper, steady. Motorcycles. A lot of them. I turned toward the tall windows and saw chrome glinting like fire. Dozens of bikes poured into the parking lot, lining up with military precision. Leather-clad riders climbed off in perfect unison. Every vest showed the same patch, a red and white death's head with wings. Hell's Angels. 80 of them by my best count. They moved toward the chapel doors like a tide. The first group stepped inside with surprising gentleness. Despite their rough appearance, tattoos, scars, heavy boots, sunglasses, they carried themselves with a kind of respect I didn't expect. Some of them even wiped their eyes. 3 women among them held bouquets of wildflowers. The big man, the president, walked straight to the casket again. He bowed his head, lips moving in a soft whisper. Then he turned and came toward me, slow and careful, like he didn't want to scare a kid already shaken to his core. He knelt so we were eye level. "You're Dylan," he said. It wasn't a question. His voice was deep, gravelly, but gentle. "Your mama talked about you all the time." My heart thudded so hard it hurt. You knew my mom?" The man's eyes glistened. "Son, your mama saved my life. She saved a lot of lives. That's why we're here." Another biker, younger with a scar down his cheek and a patch that said Captain, stepped up holding an old leather satchel. He handed it to the president, who nodded. "Name's Marcus Bennett," the man told me. "President of the Riverside Charter. All these men and women here. We owe your mother a debt we can never repay." I stared, confused. "But my mom was just a nurse. How did she save you?" Marcus's face softened. "She wasn't just anything, kid. Your mama was a guardian angel in scrubs. Pardon my language." He looked toward the casket like he was seeing that night all over again. 14 years back. There was a pileup on the 215. Semi lost control and wiped out a line of our riders. 12 bikes. Most places, when folks see our cuts, they shove us to the back of the line. Not your mama. Another biker stepped forward. An older man with a white ponytail and a voice like gravel. "She fought for us, kid. Went toe-to-toe with the attending doctor. Made sure we got treated fair. Saved 4 lives that would have been gone that night. Including mine," Marcus added. "I had internal bleeding, collapsed lung. She refused to leave my side, even after her shift ended." A woman, biker with gray hair and kind eyes, leaned forward. "And she checked on us afterward, came to recovery, visited us over the years. She became family." My thoughts spun. I tried to picture Mama like they described, arguing with doctors, patching up bikers, protecting strangers with everything she had. It didn't match the quiet woman who made grilled cheese and corrected my homework. "Why didn't she tell me?" I whispered. Marcus exchanged a look with his brothers and sisters. "Your mama kept certain things private," he said softly. "She wanted to protect you. Keep you safe." "Safe from what?" the road captain answered, voice low. She had a history before Riverside. Before you were born, she came here to start over. Marcus opened the leather satchel and pulled out a photograph worn from years of handling. It showed Mama, young, smiling, standing in scrubs with her arms around a bunch of bandaged bikers in hospital beds. A younger Marcus was in the picture too, bruised and wrapped in tape but grinning like a fool. Marcus held that old photograph like it was something sacred. "She gave this to us," he said quietly, his voice carrying a kind of respect that made the air around us feel heavier. "Told us family ain't just blood. It's the people who stand with you when the world goes to hell." He handed it to me, and my hand shook so badly I almost dropped it. The woman in that picture looked like my mom, but somehow lighter, happier, like she hadn't yet learned how heavy the world could be. I kept staring at it, wondering when everything changed for her, and what she'd been carrying all those years that I never knew about. Marcus laid his big hand on my shoulder, warm and heavy. "Listen to me, Dylan. Your mama loved you more than anything on this earth. Every decision she made, every sacrifice, she did it so you'd have a better life than she ever did, and we're here now to make damn sure that happens. You ain't alone, kid, you hear me? You got 80 brothers and sisters standing right here." A voice called out from the back. "Damn right, little man, you're family now." Another voice followed. "We take care of our own." A ripple of agreement rolled through the chapel, deep, warm, solid. I looked around at these people who should have been terrifying, but suddenly weren't. They looked at me the same way Mama used to when she thought I was asleep, soft, protective, like I mattered. Mr. Alvarez cleared his throat softly, finally remembering he existed. Shall we begin the service?" Marcus nodded and sat beside me, his massive frame practically filling the whole pew. The rest of the bikers settled in, hats off, heads bowed, shoulders still heavy with grief. The funeral director spoke about my mama using what little he knew. Public records, old paperwork, scraps of information that barely scratched the surface of the woman I was suddenly realizing I didn't fully know at all. I held the photograph tight, and for the first time since she died, something in me whispered that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't going to have to face this world alone. But the questions wouldn't stop burning inside me. What was she running from? Why did she have to be safe? What truth had she carried to her grave? The service was short, but it hit hard. 3 of the bikers stood up to talk. Marcus, the gray-haired woman named Janet, and an older man named Thomas who'd been in that massive accident 14 years back. Piece by piece, they painted a version of my mother I never imagined. Strong, brave, the kind of woman who stood her ground, even when the world tried to knock her down. Janet grinned sadly and said, "Your mama didn't take crap from anybody. Pardon my French, sweetheart, but it's true. She saw human beings, not labels. Now that's rare." When the service ended, the bikers filed past her casket one by one. Some left patches, some left coins, others left pictures, or little mementos only they understood. By the time the last one walked by, Mama's casket looked like a memorial to a secret life I never knew she had. Marcus walked back up to me once most of the chapel emptied out. "Dylan, we need to talk about what comes next. You got any family? Anyone to take you in?" I shook my head. "My grandma won't come. Mom didn't have siblings. There's nobody." Marcus hesitated before asking the question that seemed to hang in the air like smoke. "What about your father?" I swallowed hard. I don't know who he is. Mom never told me." Marcus's jaw tightened. He shot this loaded look toward the road captain, Kevin. the one with the scar and steady eyes. Something passed between them, some shared secret I wasn't part of yet. "Come outside," Marcus said softly. "You need to hear the rest." We stepped out into the blazing California sun. 80 motorcycles sat lined up like soldiers waiting for orders. Their chrome shone so bright it hurt my eyes. Marcus led me to a shady spot under a pepper tree. The other three, Kevin, Janet, and Thomas, joined us, forming a little protective half-circle around me. Marcus took a breath like the words he was about to say weighed 1,000 pounds. "What I'm about to tell you, your mama made me swear not to say unless something happened to her. She wanted you old enough to understand, but she ain't here now, and you deserve the truth." "Tell him," Janet said softly. "It's time." Marcus nodded. "Your mama wasn't born Sarah Carter. Her real name was Sarah Donovan. She grew up in Detroit. Life wasn't easy for her, not even close. Her dad drank himself stupid. Her mom checked out of life before she ever got there. She ran with some bad people when she was a kid." My stomach twisted. "But she was smart," Thomas added. "Real smart. She got her GED, worked whatever job she could, put herself through nursing school, became a trauma nurse at Detroit Medical." "That's where she met him," Kevin said quietly. "Met who?" I asked. Marcus looked me straight in the eyes. "Your father, kid." My breath caught. I could barely form words. "My father?" "James Whitfield," Marcus said. "Good man, solid brother, Hell's Angels, Detroit charter. He and your mama, they loved each other hard and fast. She got pregnant with you at 26. My world tilted. My dad was a Hell's Angel? What happened to him? My voice barely came out. Marcus's expression darkened. There was trouble. Club politics. Rival club trying to take over territory. Things got ugly. James was trying to keep things calm, trying to prevent a war. Someone from that rival club shot him, killed him, 3 months before you were born. The words hit me like someone had punched me in the chest. Janet wiped her eyes. Your mama was heartbroken and scared. Those same men threatened her too. She'd heard things. Stuff they didn't want getting out. They wanted her gone. We did everything we could to protect her, Marcus said. But Detroit was getting too dangerous. So we helped her disappear. New name, new state, new life. She came here because we had people who could watch from a distance. She became Sarah Carter, had you. Started over. 14 years ago, Thomas added, when Marcus and the others were brought into the Riverside ER. She saw the cut. She knew right away. And she still stepped in and saved us. She could have stayed hidden, but that wasn't your mama. We respected her space, Kevin said. She lived her life, raised you, and we kept watch from afar. Every year on your birthday, she'd call. Same with your father's death anniversary. She always let us know she was okay, that you were okay. Janet took out her phone and showed me pictures of me. As a baby, a toddler, a middle schooler, even last year's school photo. She was so damn proud of you, she whispered. Every little thing you did, she shared it. Tears poured down my face. She never told me any of this. Why? Marcus's voice was firm. Because she loved you enough to give you a choice she never had. She didn't want you dragged into anything. She wanted you free. I looked up at him. What happens now? Marcus exhaled slowly. Social services will want to put you in foster care. But we're not letting that happen. We're filing for collective guardianship, legal, above board. Janet's got a clean record, owns her house. She'll take you in, and the club, every one of us, will support you. It ain't charity, Janet said firmly. Your family. Your dad was our brother. Your mom was our sister. That makes you our nephew. Simple as that. Something inside me settled. Did my mom know you'd do this? Marcus smiled sadly. She made me promise. Last time we talked, about 6 months ago, she said, "If anything ever happens to me, you take care of my boy. Tell him the truth. Give him the choice I never had." And in that moment I realized there was no real decision to make. I want to stay, with you, with Janet, with all of you. Janet wiped her eyes and pulled me close. Good, because we're not letting you go. Marcus stood and laid his hand on my head, a gesture that felt like a blessing. You're a son of the angels now, Dylan, not a member. You're too young, and who knows if you'll ever want that. But family? You're ours, and we protect our family. The others approached, surrounding us like a shield. One by one, they shook my hand, welcomed me, told me their names. Soon, the engines roared to life. Mama's escort, 80 strong, formed around the funeral car. At Olivewood Memorial Park, under big old oak trees, they laid my mother to rest. Marcus stepped forward, voice steady, strong. "We're here for Sarah Donovan Carter, sister-mother hero." He handed me a folded cloth. I opened it. A memorial patch, Sarah Guardian Carter, 1980-2024. "She never wore a cut," Marcus said softly, "but she earned that name, and this patch goes on our wall with the angels who've passed." I couldn't speak. I just held it close. As the grave filled with gifts, coins, patches, flowers, we turned to leave. And that's when the black sedan rolled up. Marcus's entire posture shifted. Kevin and Thomas closed in around me. 2 men stepped out, dark suits, hard expressions. Not mourners, not friends. The taller one called out, "Marcus Bennett, we need to talk." "Who the hell are you?" Marcus growled. The man pulled out a badge. FBI, Detroit Field Office. Agent Richard Donovan. My heart lurched. Donovan, my mother's maiden name. "This is a private funeral," Marcus snapped. "Back off." "I am showing respect," the agent said calmly, "for the woman who was killed, and for the boy who deserves the whole truth." "What truth?" Marcus shot back. "How you failed to protect her." "She refused witness protection," Donovan said sharply. "We tried." And then he looked right at me. His whole face softened. "I'm your uncle, kid. Your mother's younger brother. And I've been trying to keep her safe for 15 years. Everything went still. Even the birds stopped singing. Agent Donovan stood there in front of all of us. Bikers in leather, people grieving, the wind moving softly through the cemetery trees. And he spoke with a kind of rough honesty I hadn't expected from a man in a federal suit. "She died of a brain aneurysm," he said quietly. "Natural causes. There was nothing anyone could have done." He swallowed hard, and for a second he didn't look like an FBI agent. He looked like a man who'd lost someone. "But you're right," he added. "I failed her. I failed to fix things with her while she was alive. She wouldn't see me, wouldn't talk to me. She thought that if anyone from her past got close, it would put Dylan in danger." The ground under my feet suddenly felt unsteady. An uncle, an FBI agent, standing right in front of me. Another piece of truth I never knew existed. Another secret Mama carried alone. "Why are you here now?" Janet demanded, arms crossed, jaw tight. "Because the threat isn't over," Donovan said. His voice had that grim firmness that made the hairs on my arms stand up. He turned toward Marcus. "You know it too, the Iron Jackal's MC. The ones who killed James Whitfield, they're regrouping. New leadership. Trying to rebuild their name. And word is they know Sarah is dead, and they know about the boy." I felt Marcus's hand tighten on my shoulder, a protective instinct as natural to him as breathing. Are they coming after him? Marcus asked. We don't know, Donovan admitted. But James testified against them before he died. Sarah was present for part of that prep work. She heard things, details that never made it into the official record. If the Jackals think she wrote it down or told someone, did she? Thomas asked. Donovan shook his head. I don't know. She never told me anything. But that doesn't matter now. What matters is that Dylan could be seen as a loose end, or leverage. I finally found my voice. Leverage for what? Donovan's younger partner, a serious-looking guy who hadn't said a word until then, spoke up. There's a federal case building against the Jackals. RICO charges, weapons trafficking, murder for hire. If they think you have anything at all, that could help or hurt that case, you become valuable. To them. My stomach twisted so hard I felt like I might throw up. This is insane, I said. I don't know anything. I didn't even know my father's name an hour ago. They don't know that, Donovan said softly. Look, kid, I get it. This is too much, but I can keep you safe. Witness protection, new identity, new school, new life. Absolutely not, Marcus cut in, his voice sharp as a blade. The boy isn't disappearing. He's not going to spend the rest of his life hiding in fear like Sarah did. Donovan squared his shoulders. Then what's your plan? You think you can protect him better than the FBI? Marcus didn't even blink. Yeah, we can. Kevin nodded, stepping closer. We've got 80 armed members right here in this cemetery, and plenty more across the state. We've got brothers in other chapters, safe houses, resources, and a code, family first. We die before we let anything happen to one of ours. That's not a legal solution, Donovan said. We're not talking legal, Kevin shot back. We're talking effective. Donovan looked at me then, really looked at me. What do you want, son? It's your life. I looked around at the people in front of me. Janet, strong and fierce, ready to throw herself between me and danger. Marcus, who felt like a mountain beside me, solid, unshakable. 80 bikers who had shown up for my mother when the rest of the world didn't care. And then I turned to Donovan. This man in a suit who shared my blood, but none of my memories. My mom spent her whole life running, I said quietly. Hiding, being scared. I don't want that. I want to live. And I want to know who she really was, not just the safe pieces, all of it. I looked at Marcus. I want to stay with you, with the club. If these iron jackals come, how then we deal with it together? Donovan shook his head. That's a child's decision. You're 9 years old. You don't understand the danger. I understand that my mom trusted these people to save her life, I said. I understand they showed up when no one else did, and maybe you're my uncle, but they're my family. Silence dropped over the cemetery like a blanket. Finally, Donovan exhaled deeply. I can't force you. Legally, you'll still be in state custody until guardianship is sorted. But if you ever change your mind, Dylan, if you ever need help, you call me. He handed me a business card. Day or night, I'm your uncle. I'm still trying to make up for the years I failed your mother. I took the card but didn't say anything. Donovan looked at Marcus. And you. If anything happens to this boy, if the jackals get within a mile of him, I'm coming after you with everything the federal government has. Marcus didn't even flinch. Understood, he said calmly, but it won't come to that. The agents walked back to their sedan, and the moment their car rolled away, every biker around us finally sighed out the breath they'd been holding. Well, Janet muttered, that was fun. A few nervous laughs echoed through the group. Marcus knelt beside me again. You're sure about this, kid? There's gonna be danger. complications, hard choices. I looked at Mama's grave, at her memorial patch in my hand, and at the sea of bikers waiting for me. "I'm sure," I said. "She protected me my whole life. Now I want to honor her. I want to be brave like she was." Marcus's smile held pride and something almost fatherly. "Then let's take you home, Dylan. Let's show you what family really means." I was sitting at Janet's kitchen table, pencil in hand, trying to finish my math homework. The little house smelled like fresh laundry and motorcycle oil. A strange mix, but somehow comforting. My bedroom used to be her craft room. She cleared it out, painted the walls blue, and let me hang posters of superheroes and Harley Davidsons. I'd never had a room that felt like mine before. The custody hearing went surprisingly smooth. Janet's clean record and steady job running her motorcycle repair shop helped, but what really sealed it were the character references. Business owners, a pastor, community leaders, all vouching for the club and for my mother. Even Agent Donovan testified, quietly, reluctantly. Said the Iron Jackal threat was moderate, not immediate. Said I'd likely be safe, with precautions. And just like that, I was legally Janet's foster child. The club became my extended official support system. My life started falling into place. I went to Roosevelt Elementary, joined the soccer team, found out I was good at drawing. On weekends, I went to the clubhouse where the guys taught me everything from motorcycle safety to responsibility to their unspoken code. Marcus taught me to change oil and listen to an engine like it was speaking a language. Kevin took me fishing on early Saturday mornings. Thomas, the former teacher, helped me with homework and told stories about road trips across the country. Janet, Maria, and Louise kept me fed, grounded, and loved. But the best part, the part I looked forward to every week, were the stories. Stories about my dad, stories about my mom, stories about the lives they lived before fear chased them west. I learned my father had a gift with engines and a terrible taste in jokes. Learned Mama was valedictorian of her nursing class, volunteered at free clinics, and once scared off a robber just by talking him down with that fierce, no-nonsense fire of hers. With each story, my parents became more real, more human, more mine. That afternoon, I changed into my best jeans and the leather jacket Janet gave me. Not a cut, just a simple jacket, but when I wore it, I felt connected. We were heading to the clubhouse for something important, the unveiling of my mother's place on the memorial wall. Inside the compound, 80 members stood waiting. The mood wasn't sad, not anymore. It felt proud, warm, like a celebration of someone they loved deeply. Marcus stood beside a framed plaque draped with cloth. "Brothers, sisters, family," he began. "3 months ago, we lost someone who mattered. Sarah, guardian. Carter wasn't a member, but she lived our code better than some who wear the cut. She stood for what was right. She protected the vulnerable. She gave more than she ever got." He looked at me, eyes soft. "And she gave us a gift. This boy right here. Dylan has honored her every day with bravery and kindness. He's shown us what family really means." Marcus pulled the cloth away. I felt my breath catch. Mama's photo, smiling wide in her scrubs, hung beside her patch. Sarah, guardian, Carter, 1980-2024. She saved our brotherhood. We protect her legacy. The room erupted in applause. But I wasn't crying from grief anymore. I was crying from pride. Afterward, Marcus and I stood in front of her plaque. "You think she'd be proud?" I asked. "Kid," he said, "she'd be over the moon. Strength like yours. That's her, living through you." Kevin walked over with a small wrapped box. A little something from all of us. Inside was a leather-bound journal with my initials on the cover. I opened it to find a message written on the first page. Dylan, this is your story. Fill it with your truth, your courage, your life. But never forget where you come from. You are the son of James Whitfield and Sarah Donovan Carter. You are the nephew of 80 bikers who love you. Write your path. Carry your roots. The Riverside family. Every member had signed it. I held it to my chest. Thank you, I whispered, all of you. Janet ruffled my hair. That's what family does, kiddo. Thomas brought out his famous chocolate cake. People started laughing and telling stories, and the whole clubhouse filled with music and warmth. I found a quiet corner and opened the journal. I started writing. My name is Dylan James Carter. This is the story of how I learned who I am. I wrote about the funeral, the 80 motorcycles, the truth about my mother, the truth about my father, the danger, the courage, the love. Outside, the sun was setting, deep orange and purple, shining off rows of motorcycles parked like silent guardians. And for the first time since Mama died, I felt completely home. The Iron Jackals never came. Agent Donovan kept his distance but sent cards on holidays, slowly building something like a real connection. The club continued raising me the way Mama had always hoped someone would. Years later, when I graduated high school, 80 motorcycles escorted me across the parking lot. When I went to college for nursing, my Mama's path, the club quietly paid for half of it. And when I turned 25 after a lot of soul-searching, I chose to prospect for the Riverside Charter. Not out of obligation, but out of love. But all that was still in the future. Tonight, I was just a 9-year-old boy, surrounded by people who loved me, writing the opening lines of my own story. A boy who once sat alone in an empty chapel was alone no longer. I was home.